Okay. Good morning, everybody. Jimbo, Alex, Stefan, Lee Ju. Thank you all for joining me this morning. Okay. I know that you guys took a chunk of time out of your life in order to join me here. So I appreciate, you guys coming here, and I promise I won't waste your time. Okay. Now, what we're going to be dealing with here today is I feel like it's a very, very interesting topic. Okay. We have pot smoking, right? And we all started it for a reason, and we all want to get rid of it for a specific reason, right? Okay. So we're going to get deep into this topic, and we're going to see where we can, where we can go into it. Okay. Now, what we're actually going to be doing is we're going to be covering a lot of different areas here, from what we think about pot, how it's been affecting us, um, what may perhaps you might be able to even figure out why you started, why you're continuing, but also the effects that it has on our mind, the conscious, the subconscious. Why is it a habit? How do we stop it from being a habit? And lots of other very, very interesting things. Okay, let me share a screen here. Just give me one moment here. Okay, you know what? Hold on one second. Before I share this screen, I'd like to share something else with you. I have this clip from a video. It's one of my favorite movies. Okay, this is from Finding Nemo. It's just an animated film, and let me just share it with you. And I promise there's a reason for it. We're not just going to be watching movies tonight. But let me share this with you. That way I can, explain why this has a personal impact on me. Okay, here we go.
No, I promised him I'd never let anything happen to him.
Huh. That's a funny thing to promise.
What?
Well, you can't never let anything happen to him. Then nothing would ever happen to him. Not much fun for little Harpo.
Okay. All right. Were you guys able to hear the audio in that? If you can, just send me a quick, yes, no, yep. Okay, great. Thank you, Alex. All right. Thank you, Stefan. Okay, now why do I like that clip? Okay, this clip to me has a lot of significance, but let me, before we get into it, let me just share this um, so we can actually start with this. Okay. Hold on 1 second. Okay, there we go. Now we're ready to roll. Fantastic. Okay, now why does this clip have special significance to me? Okay, just in case you guys haven't seen this movie, I will give you the shortest of a breakdown. Okay, basically this fish gets lost and his father's trying to find him, and he's basically saying, I promise I'd never let anything happen to him. And this other fish is saying, but that's stupid, because if nothing ever happens to him, then nothing will ever happen to him. Okay, I find that this is actually um, where we are in life. Okay. And I'll just say you guys specific. Okay. This is where I was, a couple years ago, I was where you were. Okay. And I'm definitely going to share some insides, of my journey. Now, what happens with this video, what I find significant is you might be thinking, you did all these things for all these amount of years. Okay. Now, you guys here live, the guys that are going to be sharing, watching the replay, we have people here that smoked anywhere from 5 years to 30 years. Okay. Personally, myself, I smoked for 25 years before being able to stop. That's a huge amount of time. I didn't feel very good about myself. Okay. So it's very possible you guys don't necessarily feel that great about yourself, with letting this habit get out of control. But the person that we were will create the person that we will become. Okay. And that's who we want to be looking at. Who are we going to be? Who are we going to become at the end of all of this? Right. I like to use this example of someone who's been addicted to heroin for years. They make the best addiction counselors. Why? Because they were there. They understand. So the person that you are, don't knock yourself down for having gone down this road. Because when you get to the other side, you're going to be that much better of a human being. And that's going to be, you're going to be incredible, a cut above the rest. So give yourself a little credit for that. Okay. Now, in this workshop, you're giving me your time and trust, and I thank you for that. And it's not going to go for nothing, okay? I promise you that in this workshop, I'm going to give you some real actionable strategies that you're going to be able to go forward with, okay? That you're going to have some knowledge and information, hopefully, that you've never heard before, and habits that you've struggled with for years, like pot. You're going to be able to go forward with it, okay? It's not difficult. The road past this is not difficult, okay? It doesn't have to be difficult. I struggled with it, okay, until I found the way, okay? And there is a way, there's a method. And actually, if you pay attention and write notes if you can, if you want to, the methods I'm going to be sharing with you can help you break any habit that you have, okay? And we all have more than one. If it was just one bad habit we had, we'd be, top of the world, but we're not. In the past, I've had a long, long list of habits. Okay. I've had pot smoking. I've had alcohol consumption a little too much. I've had caffeine. I was a major coffee addict. I loved my pastries a little too much. I was quite overweight. Now, the reason I'm saying this to you is I'm not trying to impress you of what I've done. I'm trying to impress upon you what's possible with the things that I'm going to share with today. Okay. Now we're going to be focusing specifically on marijuana. All right. That's our target today. But you could theoretically take all of these things and apply them to anything that you want. Okay. Very, very good. Hold on. Need to have my cocoa, my coffee substitute. Okay. Now I went on this road from smoking pot. I started when I was like 20. Okay. Now, by the way, just to digress for 1 second, the reason I'm here with you today and the thing that I would enjoy the most in the world is if a year from now, you guys send me a message or I bump into you or whatever it might be, and you're going to say, Ellie, that hour I spent with you was amazing and it changed everything. Okay. So I have things to share. I'm happy to share them. Bear with me. We're going to get through a lot of stuff now. So I started on my journey a couple years back. I was smoking since I was 20. I was smoking for about 25 years. Okay. I'm 49 right now. I have to say that. Actually, I have to tell you my age because some people have told me in the past, like, well, you said you smoked for 25 years. Would you start when you were 5? So I know I look a little bit young, so I'm just going to give that a little bit disclaimer. I had smoked for about 25 years. And I started way before I met my wife, way before I started my family. I was single. I had a single life, smoked a lot there, and it was fine, right? I had a lot of free time. I worked. I had extra money. There were parties all the time. It was great. Then I met my wife, settled down, started a family. And then things started not to be so great. It was getting in the way. It was getting in the way of my connection. It was getting in the way of, me treating my kids the way they should be treated, the patience. For me, it did affect me emotionally. Like I wasn't able to get emotionally close, as close as I needed to with my wife, and I'll explain more about that soon. And I also had short tempers with my kids, unless I was high. And over the years, I realized that I probably should stop smoking. It just wasn't being the beneficial carrier, the beneficial thing that I had considered it was back in the day. And I cut back here and there. I tried, and by the way, not to waste your time, I want to tell you that this webinar, this workshop, is specifically for those of you who want to completely eliminate pot from your life. I'm not going to be talking about the philosophy of moderating. Okay? I'm not going to say that nobody should do that. I'm saying I don't believe in moderation. Hasn't worked for me. I don't believe that somebody should moderate smoking pot because of the negative effects that are so overblown. It's unbelievable, and we're going to go deep into that. So if that's what you're looking for, I would. You don't. I don't want to waste your time. Okay, time is the one thing we can never get more of. So if at any point in time this workshop is not for you, I will not take any insult. Please go have yourself a breakfast. But if you're looking to eliminate, that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you with that. Okay, so when I was trying to quit, I was like, I didn't want to quit, right? I still liked smoking. So I cut back a little bit. Didn't really work because something would always happen to, get me back on the bandwagon more often, even if I cut back for a couple weeks. And then I would try to quit and I would throw my stash away, here. Um, Here's things that I learned along the way of how to quit. Okay. These are just the things that I tried and didn't work. Okay. And I got a lot more to this list, but tell me if some of these sound familiar. You threw your stuff away, right? You got rid of everything. You deleted phone numbers from your phone. That way you can't get it quickly enough. You told your friends that you weren't going to smoke anymore, right? These are all the things I did over the years. They're like, okay, I'm not doing it. I got my willpower. I'm strong. Boom, right? Doesn't work. Didn't work for me. It has not worked for so many people I've talked to about this. It's not the whole picture. Sure, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's just not the whole picture. So where do we go from there, right? So this is where I was stuck. And I was just struggling with it and doing the best that I could with the tools that I had, right? And everything was just limping along. And now that I look back at that, I'm like, how could I have wasted 25 years of my life down that hole? But that's something else completely. Anyway, when I was about 45 years old, about 4 or 5 years ago or so, my wife ended up in the hospital for an emergency procedure, an emergency surgery she needed. All of a sudden, she got internal bleeding, just popped out of nowhere with no idea where it came from, and she was rushed to the hospital. Okay. Now, we didn't even know what was going on. And she's in the ER, she's in the OR, the emergency room first, and then in the OR, the operating room, and they're telling us that she has internal bleeding and life-saving surgery, and she's bugging out and I'm bugging out, right? And I have 4 little kids at home, and we don't know what's going on. I was panicking. She was terrified. She goes into surgery. And now I'm there for my wife, and I got to be home with the kids, and I'm shuttling back and forth, and I was panicking, right? I'm stressed out, right? Nobody could blame me for needing to take a hit, right? Something to just de-stress, right? Just give a quick joint and just all of a sudden everything is easier to deal with. So that's what I did, right? Those were the tools that I had. And see, it bothers me so much when I tell this story to remember the type of person that I was. And what you have to realize is life is a journey. We all start from somewhere, but it's not who we are now, it's who we can be. And one thing that I didn't know back then was that life is that pot, it disconnects us emotionally. We end up in our own little cave, our own little head, and everything is fine. It's because we put like this haze around us, living in the fog. And we don't feel the things that are outside. And that's kind of like a lot of times why we do it. But my wife needed me to be there for her. She needed me at the time of her life that she needed me the most. and this story is so personal that I didn't want to share it. And when I was discussing this with my wife, should I share this story, the story that changed everything for me? She said, I insist that you share it. You have to share it. And I said, why? She said, because you did me so wrong. This is going to be as a personal penance for you every time you share it around the world. Ask it. That's how you can ask me forgiveness. This is just how deep this story cut into us. So what happened is she needed me. She's in the hospital. She gets out of surgery. She's in recovery. And I'm there, but I'm not because I'm stoned. She needs me there to hold her hand, look into her eyes, feel her emotion, her depth, her anxiety, she was so scared. And I wasn't there. I mean, physically I was there. Emotionally, I wasn't there. And she felt it and she knew it. She felt abandoned. I didn't feel anything. I thought I was being the perfect husband. I was there for her. I was home managing the kids, still doing my job. I thought I was the perfect husband. It took a long time for me to realize how badly I had done. And then it took me even longer to realize how badly I've been behaving in life for the past 2 decades. And I didn't realize any of this. She came home. Wonderful. She got better. Fantastic. And then she called me over and we had a conversation. And she said something so significant. She said, if you don't change, I'm going to leave you. I was like, what? Where did this come from? She said, it's not that I don't love you. I just can't live with you. That ripped me apart. It ripped me apart. She loves me. She can't live with me. And this is all because of pot. So much so that I didn't even know that it was affecting me. So, of course, my wife, pot, what am I going to choose? That stuff's out the window, right? So I made a commitment. That's it. It's done. Who's more important? So I flushed my stash, right? I made the commitment, right? I deleted all those phone numbers. I told everybody I'm quitting. Yeah, that lasted what? A couple weeks, a month? And then something stressful happened in my life. I came across some friends or whatever it is. I was at a party. Something came across. I ended up smoking again. Oh, it was just the one time. And then the one time came the next weekend. And then it was every other day. And then it was every day back on the bandwagon. Except this time, I knew there was more at stake. This time I knew if I don't find a solution, I'm going to lose it all. And let me tell you something. I consider myself lucky that I had warning ahead of time. That she told me, if you don't change, I'm going to leave you. She doesn't want to, but she will. I was just talking with a client a couple of days ago, and he was telling me at how he connected to this story, except for him, it was too late. He only realized it was all because of pot after she left. Anyway, back to my journey. So I was desperate to try something that would work. Desperate. So I realized that the same technique was not going to work. So I went online and I was doing all the research you could possibly imagine, listening to podcasts, blogs, reading books. And a lot of it had great information, but very little of it actually worked. Okay? Like for instance, well, let me say some of the things that didn't work, right? So we talked about flushing the stash. That doesn't work. They talk a lot about that. They talk a lot about talking to your, sending it out to the world, accountability. That's not enough of a tool on its own. Then I went down the scientific method, okay? Scientific method of you got an addiction, so you got to find the source of the addiction. And then when you find out the source of the addiction, then you'll be able to, solve the addiction. Great. So this whole route of how to do that. And They're telling me to go back to when I was 6 years old and something happened that made you addicted, made you have an addictive, whatever. Anyway, it didn't work. Very nice in print, didn't actually work. And then there's this whole trigger response that this is a different method, by the way. The whole trigger that you're being triggered from something in life, and then your response is to smoke. Now, that has a lot to do with habits in general. It's true. But now I'm sitting all day, every day, trying to figure out what's my trigger. How am I going to respond to that? And it was driving me crazy, and it still didn't work. So I was trying to get all these different ideas, and things didn't just end up working out for me. I mean, why was I addicted? Because I liked smoking. These things just didn't end up working. So clearly, I can't give up. Clearly, I have to find what's going on. How to deal with this? I'm struggling for words now because it's just like, how do you deal with this, right? I'm going back to my frustration of how do you get through this? And I'm assuming, I mean, you should never assume, but I'm assuming that you guys are in a similar situation where you know it's bad for you, where you know you want to quit and you need to quit. And more than likely, you've tried and it just doesn't work long term. If you have and you're just here for some extra information, fantastic, good on you. But me, I'm assuming that this is where where you are, right? So what are some of the things that I did come across that worked? Okay. Willpower, for instance. Okay. Willpower is a muscle we all have. But you have to know how to use your willpower. You can't just throw it all out and expect it to be there for when you need it. It's a muscle. You have to know how to build it and conserve it. And then that way it's there for you. Okay. Other things that worked for me is we have to know where we're starting from and where we're going. Okay. It's really, really important. And I'm going to help you start to create a baseline. That way you can track and measure. Because if you can't measure, you can't have progress. It's just the way it is with the world. Everything that you have in life, whether it's going to the gym and you know how much you're starting to bench press, and that way you can track it a month later, or whether it's business, anything that you do, you have to be able to track. Because if you can't track and measure it, then you can't improve. Okay, reality. We also have to know where we want to go. And in this specific habit, we know we want to eliminate it. So that's an easy target. But I'm going to show you how to build targets for other things, as well. And what I'm also going to go into over here, which is another thing that I learned about, is how the brain works. Something called neuroplasticity. And that's how the brain actually structures around these types of activities. And we're going to go deeper into it, and you're going to understand how to use that. Okay. We're also going to talk about dopamine blunting, which I didn't know this. I really, really did not know this. And this was a serious, had impact on me. But pot is actually blunting the amount of dopamine, the feel-good drug in your brain. It's not giving it to you. It's actually stripping it from you. But we're going to go, this was just like kind of like a table of contents. And we're going to go deeper into these things. Okay. Now, I've made it my mission at this point to share this information and help you and others and anybody that can come within my circle of influence to help you to not struggle the same way I did. Okay. Don't be held back the same way I was. Have a path forward, helping hand. I'm here to help as much as I can. Okay. If I can help one person, one relationship, anybody achieve a higher level of success, it makes everything worthwhile. Okay. It makes the struggles I went through worthwhile. All right. Now, like I said earlier, this workshop has specifically been designed for those who want to stop smoking and eliminate it completely. Especially if you've tried in the past and it didn't work. And if you haven't tried in the past, I'm going to give you a helping hand in the easiest way I have found in order to eliminate it. Okay. This is not for someone who just wants to moderate. Okay. Anybody who needs to stop, I'm here. These methods work, but you're still going to have to put in some effort. Okay. You don't just get to go to sleep and wake up in the morning and say, hallelujah, I'm free. There's some effort involved. The tools are going to make it easy. But bear with me. Now, It took me a while to figure this out. Okay? But I knew I needed it out of my life. And I feel that if you're here with me today, it's because you recognize that it's stopping you from living completely. Now, in this workshop, I'm not selling anything. Okay? There's nothing to buy here. I just want to be here for you. I want to pay it forward, so to speak, help you on your own personal journey. Now, we can only be here for max 90 minutes. That's just all the time that we have. And there's so much to get through. I'm kind of going to try to rush through, but there's only so much we can get through. And this is information that I usually take clients through on a 90-day journey. I'm going to try to compress as much as I possibly can into the next 90 minutes. Okay, that way you can walk away with serious value. If you stick around till the end, I prepared something nice for you. I want to share with you. It's a gift to help you on your road. Okay, stick till the end. I'll share it with you. Okay. So the purpose of the time that we're going to be spending together is to learn how to break free and actually rewire our brains. Okay, because what a habit is something that's physically wired in our brain, and then we're just drawn to it because it's a super connection there. Okay, it's the known. It's where we feel comfortable. We end up going there. So we want to learn what's making these connections. How do we disconnect it and optimally make other connections? Like imagine every time you got stressed, instead of grabbing a joint, you're like, I'm going for a jog. What would that do for your life? All of a sudden you have clear-headed thinking, you have muscle mass, you're losing weight, energy. I mean, right? It's just a different habit. Instead of jumping on the couch with a bag of Doritos and then, making an ass print on the velvet, all of a sudden you put on your running shoes, it'll actually do the same thing. It'll relieve your stress, but in a very, very different outcome. So I'm going to share some methods. Okay. Now, if you don't do it in ways, in the specific methods I'm going to, outline, now you can do it in many, many different ways. But I found that if you don't do it in this way, you can fail. Okay. Like I have, like many people have. You could try again and you could fail again. Then you end up, you want to give up because you feel weak. You don't feel good about yourself, right? Your self-esteem drops because you don't feel strong enough as a man, right? And your masculinity is just eroding because you're telling yourself you're going to do something and then you just don't do it. You feel weak. You can also definitely feel a lot of shame. I know I did. I started hiding it from my wife because I told her I was quitting and then I wasn't. So there's a lot of internal shame that comes with this as well. And then the worst outcome of not doing it correctly is you can fall into learned helplessness where you feel like you can never change it. And that's the worst thing that can happen, really, truly. We have the power to change anything in our life, and we should never feel like we don't. And if we fall into learned helplessness, as an example of learned helplessness, which maybe would solidify this, an elephant in the circus, or when they train an elephant. If you go backstage, you see an elephant, massive animal, right? And it's tied. It's tied to a peg in the ground with a little rope. On a loop around its leg, tied to a peg in the ground with a little rope. This elephant can probably flip over a car and not even notice the car was there. Okay, they're massive animals. How are they held in place by a little rope? And the way it works is ever since they were born, they were tied to a stake by a rope. And they struggled as baby elephants. They struggled and they could not get free. They could not get free. They could not get free. Until they realized that they cannot get free. And they're helpless to get free. And now as an adult, that learned helplessness is still embedded in them. So a little rope can't get free. Okay? We do not want to be in that state. Okay? You really want to make sure that you never get into learned helplessness because you are a powerful individual. You're in this world for a reason, or else you just would not have been born. You're here for a reason. You have the strength to do whatever it is you're here to do. And learned helplessness is not a good thing. Okay. So these are some of the things that can happen if we're doing it without a structured way. Now, if you do it in a structured way, you can change your habits easily. You can stop smoking pot. You can add in new beautiful habits, new routines. Yes, there's some effort involved. Nothing is just, free, but well worth it, mind you, well worth it. But you start to see yourself succeeding, and then that builds your self-esteem. It builds your character. You start believing in yourself that you're strong and you can do anything. Not like this weak little thing that keeps smoking even though they don't really want to. So there's 3 steps in the process. First, understanding. Why are you doing this? Okay? Understand why you're doing this, why your brain wants it, why you physically want it, why you keep telling yourself that you want it even though you don't, because your body and your brain are actually 2 separate entities connected by the neck, but I'll get into that in a minute. That's step 1. You have to understand why, because without the why, you can't go anywhere. All right? Somebody tells you, I want you to do this. The first question is why? Why should I do that? We're going to go into that, okay? And the second step is the where, vision. You have to know where you're going, okay? If you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know if you're there? Okay? We're going to take a baseline, and we're going to create a vision. Third step are tools, integration. We need to take everything, put it together, understand it physically, mentally, and be able to go forward with it with an understanding of what the process is. All right? Great. So let's see. Okay. We're going to talk a lot about pot right now. Okay. We're going to talk about some of the things that you might know, some of the things that you don't know. Okay. But one thing that I want you to understand is that there's a lot of things out there in society that are going to be telling you you should smoke. Okay. And it's not balanced. I found this actually by accident. It's not balanced information. You don't have half the people saying it's not good to smoke and other people are saying, yeah, it's good. Okay. Look at alcohol, for instance. You got a lot of people saying alcohol is awesome, right? But you also have a lot of people saying it's really not that great. Same with smoking cigarettes. Depends which culture you're in. There are some cultures that's still all pro. In America, certain other places, they have a more, balanced viewpoint on it, sometimes even negative. With pot, with the whole world, it's legalized. It's everybody's pro. And one way that I found this, I mean, first of all, in the media, in the movies, it's all gung-ho on pot smoking. And that actually affects us, okay? Because we don't want to be the outlier. We don't want to be the one that's outside of the group. It's hard to be outside of the group. So we all want to be accepted. Nobody wants to be, that guy, right? And understand that not smoking, sometimes you're going to be that guy. But how did I discover this? And this was by accident. So I was doing all this research, right? And there was no out for me. I needed to figure out a way. So I go onto the library to find books on how to quit smoking pot. And I like to use a Kindle. A Kindle is like an iPad, but you can connect to your library and borrow books straight onto the iPad and just read onto this Kindle and read it on there. That way it stops me. I don't have to go to the library to rent any books, right? So I log on to the library, and Alex is asking, are we going to get a link to this at the end? Yeah. I will send an email out to you guys with the replay if you want. Okay. I'm going to give you some links to some resources while we go through them. But the replay I'll send it out to whoever wants it. Okay. Where was I? Right, the Kindle. So I go to the library and I'm looking for books, right? And the books Matthew, I'm actually going to take off your video. The reason behind that is just in case you don't want your face showing up on the replay, I want to respect your privacy. Okay? Not because I don't want to see you guys. I actually love seeing and interacting with the people that I talk with. It makes it for a more real conversation, but I want to respect everybody's privacy. So we'll just keep your videos off. That way it's only me being shared. All right. Hope you understand. Okay. So I go into the library and I found it was a big library, big state library, and I found tons of books, tons. How to smoke pot, how to grow pot, how to eat pot, use pot medicinally, recreationally. So many different things on how to love pot. And zero books on how to quit smoking. None. None on the negative effects. Okay? It was a little bit mind-blowing. I was like, there were lists and lists of books, nothing on how to stop. So I'm like, okay, whatever, it's a fluke. I call up a relative of mine who lives in another state. I'm like, can I log on to your library? I want to see if there's any books on there. Another state library, another big library, nothing. Zero books on how to quit smoking pot. Now, just to be clear, so I'm not exaggerating or anything, there was one book. There was a book, it was a memoir about a pothead who, quit smoking pot and why he quit smoking pot. But it was more of his personal journey and the depths he fell into, specifically from pot, before he was able to snap out of it. I did not go to such depths as him. I mean, the story is really weird. um, he was almost to the level of like you hear stories of like crack addicts. I'll sleep with you for $5 for a dime bag or something like that. Something along those lines. I mean, he sounded a little on the deep end. But my point is, that was the only book I found in two very large state libraries. None about how to quit smoking pot. So what I'm just trying to get at here is you might find society's a little unbalanced. Okay, just recognize that ahead of time. Okay, now let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. Okay, this was all the introduction, but we have a lot to get through, and I really want to share what I can. Okay, now our body and our mind are two very, very different things. Okay, I like it to call it the Jekyll and the Hyde. We have our brain, our thinking machine, and we have our body, which is more the automatic machine. Okay, our body runs on automations. Okay, that's what we call a habit. For example, I was talking to somebody very recently, and he was telling me how he smoked for the past 30 years. And every morning, he tells himself, I'm not smoking today. And within 5 minutes, he has a joint between his lips. And he was struggling. He was really, really struggling. He's like, I don't even know what to do anymore. He's like, this is like a daily routine for me. I tell him, so what happened here? I had to break it down with him step by step. Like, what happened? You're a smart person. I'm talking to all you guys. I'm not saying what I talked to him. This is what you're all smart, very smart people. Why is it that we say we're going to do something and then we do something different? Because our brain and our body are not always connected. Okay? Our brain is our thinking mechanism, but a lot of times we just do most of the time, most of our day is run by habits. Okay? We don't end up doing very, very different than what we've done before unless we're actively monitoring and working on that. Okay, now there's a lot of science behind this. Now, we have to create the connection between our mind and our body. Now, I'll give you an example of a habit. When you first started learning how to drive, stick shift, automatic, whatever it is, you're sitting behind that chair. There's so much to concentrate on: the brakes, the gas, the mirrors, other people on the road, the stop signs. So much is overwhelming, right? And then 10 years down the line, you're driving, hopefully not texting, right? And 10 minutes later, you get to work and like, oh, minute, who was driving? I don't even remember half the road, right? So who was driving? You clearly were, but your brain wasn't active. Your body was driving. It's all on automatic. We have to be very, very careful on when we're letting our body be automated. And the crazy thing is, most of our habits were done based on things that don't even belong to us. They were done based on ideas that were ingrained in us when we were much younger. And I'm not going to go into that. That's a much deeper concept of really figuring out why we do the things we do. Not the, like I said, going back to when you're 6 years old and I stubbed my toe. So it's not about that, but the different belief systems that we have of what's right and what's wrong and what I should do and what I shouldn't do and whatever. That's a deeper conversation. But but it's important for us to recognize that just because we say we want to do something doesn't mean we're going to. The body works on emotion. We'll talk a little bit more of that soon. Body works on emotion, and that's its trigger, and the brain works on intellect. Okay, that's where we're thinking, but we have to connect the two. So first, we are going to start flooding our intellect right now with why pot is bad. Okay? Because that's really, really important. We have to have the why. I'm going to ask you guys for a second, if you're willing to share, write down for a few seconds, what are the negative things that you experience in life because you use pot? Now, I've heard it all. Like, I've talked to a lot of people at this point. I've heard a lot. Just share with me. I'll go through some of the, some of what I've gone through. You know, look, it's real easy to go on any website, type a search in Google, and the list of symptoms is massive. Brain fog, anxiety, a little too much hunger, right? Some people lose their appetite, some people gain a big one. Lack of memory. Did you know that it affects your sleep? Did you know that? I used to get crazy deep sleeps after smoking. I would love it. Um, I would love. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, Li Ju. Um, if you can, if you mean lack of motivation, I totally got that. I had that for 20 years. I didn't go anywhere in life. I did just enough not to get fired. But back to the sleep, because this is really, really important. Okay, so all right, so I got it right. Okay, thanks, Li Ju. One of the things about sleep is I used to get really deep sleeps. I didn't want to go to sleep without having a bowl because I would have such a good sleep. But the problem is it affects your REM. It doesn't let you get into good REM. You get into a nice deep sleep, but you don't dream. The REM is the part that refreshes you. So you wake up tired. I just knocked back 10 hours sleep. Why am I waking up like a dead man? Happened to me all the time. So pot is preventing you from getting a good sleep. And then you wake up in the morning and then you're chugging your coffee because you got to wake up. And then you need a little bit more boost. So you're smoking some pot, just to give a temporary boost before it knocks you out, right? So this was like a really, really big thing of what pot was doing to me. I mean, my memory was shot. I was seriously concerned that my memory was irreparably damaged. I couldn't remember where I put the car keys, my watch, my cell phone, and to a concerning level. And I'm sure these things, affect older people, developing Alzheimer's and things like that, because the studies and research that show that the more you use your brain, the more it's kept as an active muscle, then what happens is it stays active. It's like any muscle, if you stop using it, it atrophies, it just dies. The brain is the same thing. So my brain was slowly withering, and I was really, really worried that this was going to be permanent. But then after I stopped smoking, it slowly came back, and I always know where I keep the car keys now. Okay, Alex, okay, I got, let's see. Someone is saying that they use it as nervous system regulation and loss of memory, energy loss, negative thoughts. Okay, you know what? Absolutely. One thing that I used to think, this is interesting. I always thought it was just me, but then I mentioned it to someone else and they're like, oh, totally. Half the world is now saying pot is the best thing for pain management. Maybe it works for them. I don't know. But I remember that whenever I was ill or injured, I'd be like, oh, I need to smoke because I'm in pain. And then I would smoke and it would just make the pain worse. Because now I'm focusing on the pain and I feel the pain more. But I would tell myself that it's better, but I knew it wasn't. And I haven't really shared that with that many people. I just happened to mention it to somebody last week, and he's like, "Oh, it's exactly," because he said he's worried about not using it for as pain relief. So I was like, okay, maybe it works for you, but this was my experience, and he's like, actually, it's exactly my experience as well. So sometimes our brain is saying, oh, we want to do this, but we don't want to. It works, but it really doesn't. So we have to throw some rationale in there. So sleep was a big thing for me. Lack of motivation. Okay, I never wanted to do anything. Never wanted to, go deeper in my job. Never wanted to exercise. I had brain fog all the time. But here's the kicker Yeah, I had mood swings. I was very short-tempered. I could not emotionally connect with my wife. I mean, obviously I was emotionally connected, but not in the way that you should be. Okay? I'm just skipping ahead on this because I fell a little behind. Okay. Um, when I talk to people through a workshop, sometimes I just like go, off key, and then I'm like, okay, hold on, where am I on this PowerPoint? I gotta like skip ahead a few times, right? Here's something that I learned about pot afterwards that made so much sense, but I didn't know, and I wish I would have known. See, I would find myself depressed. I should say low emotional energy. I don't know if it was at the depression point, but maybe some people would consider it depression, the low energy. And the only way I would be able to feel better is if I smoked some pot, and then it's like back up, right? But here's the thing. Pot does not make you happier. It makes you sadder. You see, in our brain, we have dopamine receptors. Okay, is the dopamine is the feel-good drug. Okay, let's see where I can find. Here we go. Dopamine is the feel-good drug that we get in our life. Okay, we get in our body all the things that we're supposed to be doing, having a relationship, having a good job, exercise. Dopamine comes into our brain and we feel good. Okay, we want lots of dopamine. Now, what happens is when you smoke, we get a shot of 2 to 10 times the amount of dopamine in our brain. Okay, that feels great, right? I mean, fill me up, right? And that's what happens. The problem is that I didn't know, and I'm sure you guys don't know this either, is the brain can't handle that much dopamine. So it's getting like a tsunami, right? And the brain recognizes very quickly that it has to stop itself from short circuiting with that much dopamine. So what it does is it takes dopamine receptors and turns a lot of them off. Probably most of them. Turns them off. That way, now this flood of dopamine from the pot is just going to give the regular amount of dopamine. So if you were used to getting, let's say, I don't know, I'm just 10 points of dopamine, and that's how much the brain can absorb. Now you have 2 receptors on. That's going to, instead of having 10 receptors on, now it's going to shut all them down except for 2. And that way, when the pot is going to give you, it's going to be like the equivalent of 10 hits of dopamine. That's a survival mechanism from the brain. Now, where does this leave us? This leaves us that if we're not stoned, we only have 2 dopamine receptors active. So going on your normal day-to-day, you can't get out of the slump because nothing is making you happy enough. You're not getting enough of that get up and go energy. Your brain is just, ugh. And we did this to ourselves. The good news is it reverses automatic. Once you stop blunting it, once you stop flooding it, once you stop giving it the thing that's destroying it, it will reset. It does take 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 3, sometimes 4. It's roughly the time frame. And then the brain is going to reset. And then you're just going to feel happier. So I'm not saying that if you put away if you get rid of everything now and you stop smoking, I'm not saying that tomorrow you're going to feel awesome. Okay? You did this to your brain. The brain has to fix itself. You don't have to do anything other than stop poisoning it. And it will fix itself. Okay, so that's the good news. Okay? You just have to stop doing that. Okay? All right. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what a habit is and why it's so important to recognize what it is and why you're no more than a rat. And I'm going to explain that. There was a scientific experiment done with rats. Okay, they took baby rats and put them in a cage, which occasionally they sent electric shocks into this cage. Yes, I'm sure the rats were very, very uncomfortable, and they would zap them. Okay, as once they matured, they opened up the cage and they allowed them free access to other cages, and the rats went out and they're like, wow. Cages, houses that don't have shocks, right? Amazing, fantastic. But then over time, all of them returned back home. They all returned back to the cage, which gives them electric shocks. Why? Why would they do that? There's pain where they are. And if they go outside and they had free access at that point, there's no pain there. Why would they go back to there? And the answer is because it's comfortable. That's the known. They know what that place is. It's not the unknown. Okay, the unknown is scary. The unknown, we don't know what's there. Okay, now we're going into some of this stuff. You might have to actually be like, that's interesting. I never thought of that. But we have internal fears. Okay, and one of the fears is like, what's going to happen? I don't know what's going to happen, and that's a very big fear, and it holds us back in a lot in life. Okay, and it's this. This is how it holds. This is one of the ways it holds us back. We stay in a situation. Better to deal with with the evil that you know instead of the evil you don't know, or whatever. However that saying goes. Better to at least know what you're dealing with. That's what the rats chose to do, and that's exactly what you're trying to do. That's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly what I did for 25 years. I knew it was bad to stay in the position that I'm in, but I don't know what's out there. I don't know how my day is going to be like if I'm sober. How am I going to deal with the boss? How am I going to deal with the kids, with the wife that wants to have the talk, right? How am I going to deal with all the things that come up that give me anxiety and stress and pressure? I just want to relax. How am I going to relax without pot? There's so many unknowns. What am I going to do with my spare time? I'm so bored. Boredom is this massive reason to smoke, right? That was a big draw. But without boredom, we can't progress. It's our bored times that we find space. What's bored? What's boring? The space that we can now take that space and actually do something that we've always wanted to do, or find things that we've never known that we want to do. Pot removes all that, and then we end up electrocuting ourselves over and over and over again. And next time you go to pick up a joint, ask yourself, why are you acting like a rat? Okay. What I want to share with you now is some tools that are going to help you along the way. Okay? First of all, it'll be very, very helpful for you if you take a piece of paper, journal, write it online, write it on your hands. It doesn't really matter where. Write down for a moment. You don't have to do it now. You can do it later. But write down all the negative effects that you have from pot. Okay? This is going to be very, very helpful for you in the future as you go along, because there are going to be some days that you're questioning. Like, I feel great. Why don't I smoke today? And you have to look back at it and see. This is going to be invaluable. You have to look back and see, but my sleep was crappy. But my relationship or lack of was crappy. But my job was crappy. But brain fog. I couldn't remember. I didn't go anywhere. So many things. Pot is holding you back and stopping you. Write down all of these things. Okay, whatever the symptoms, anxiety, depression, relationship, whatever it is, write these things down because it's going to help you in the future. Okay. Now I talked to you about the emotional disconnect. It really just doesn't. You think you're connecting, but they know that you're not. It actually puts up a barrier. Okay. You have depleted joy because your dopamine receptors are just dulled. It's just the way it is. You're always in a fog. I was always in a fog. God, this haze is just pervasive. But I loved it, right? I was in my own little man cave. Life passes by, and then you wake up 20 years later, like, what did I do? And you can't get time back. And here, I'm going to share with you now, this is a very, very interesting thing. I only learned about this recently. We have something called an aura, an energy field, which surrounds us. Okay? Like if you watch The Matrix, we're all just a big battery. Not exactly like that, but we have an energy around us. The Eastern philosophies deal a lot with it, with the chakras. And some people are gifted, they can see the energy. Most people cannot. There are machines that can see it, but in any case, somebody wrote a book where she wrote down, she actually drew the different energies and how they fluctuate, kind of like the northern lights, they shift. And So over here, you can see on the left, you got a healthy child aura. Okay, it's like a rainbow. Beautiful. On the right-hand side, healthy adult aura. Okay, yes, there's differences, whatever, but it's beautiful. The middle one is someone on drugs, someone on pot. She describes it that it's like this mucus film. Okay, now if the aura is basically the manifestation of our inner body, or vice versa, the aura is what affecting our inner body, however it works, what state do you want to be in? It clearly has an effect beyond, let me just smoke a little, get a little high, and then continue with my life. That's what this is showing me. That no matter how much I think it's affecting me on deeper levels. And I've discovered over time and conversations with my wife that the disconnect, emotional disconnect that happens with pot lasts 3 to 4 days. Okay. You might think, my partner's out of town till tomorrow. I can smoke now, no big deal. There's an emotional disconnect that lasts for 3 to 4 days. Okay. And while I was dealing with my struggles and everything like that, I ended up smoking one night. And as soon as my wife found out, she took the kids and she left. She was actually out of town and she was coming back 2 hours later. And when I was talking with her on the phone, she sensed something different. And she said, "Did you smoke?" I said, "Yes." She said, "I'll be back in 3 days." And she just went to a friend and stayed there for 3 days. It happens, okay? It's real. Whether we sense it or not doesn't take away from the fact that that these things happen. So I'm telling you all these things so it'll give you enough of a reason why not to smoke. Because at the end of the day, the reasons you're going to write your own list. The reasons why to smoke are going to outweigh the reasons to smoke, okay? Now I want to talk about the process, the where, okay, where we want to go, okay? Now, if we do it this way, if we don't do it this way of understanding where we're starting from and where we're going, you don't end up going anywhere meaningful. You just run on autopilot, life keeps going on, and that's it. And it makes it really difficult to have willpower when you don't really know why, okay? You don't know where you're going, okay? But when you have your correct vision, it's less of a fight with your animal self. And I'm going to explain in a few moments what that means. And then you get to feel strong. You get to celebrate your wins and you create a better version of yourself, something to live into. Okay. And we're going to talk about this. This is some good stuff. Okay. So I talked about tracking your baseline. Okay. About writing. First step, write down the things that bother you. Okay. Now I'm going to share something with you called the mood meter. Okay. It's a document. I'm going to share with you a link now. Make a copy of it and then fill it out. You don't have to share it with me. You don't have to share it with anybody. This is for you and it is invaluable. Okay. What it is, it's basically a small document with columns. It's an Excel spreadsheet, columns that every day for the next week or multiple times a day, whatever you have the interest in doing, mark down your energy level, your energy and vitality. How much spark do you have? Do you have the light in your eyes, right? 0 to 10. 0, you're dead. 10, you're off the moon. Write down in the morning, write down how was your sleep? Do you feel refreshed? Okay. Your anxiety, your depression, your connection with others, and you can make as many columns as you want for the things that affect you the most. Write this down. This is your baseline. This is really, really important because in a few weeks, you can be like, is this even worth it? Because there's going to be times that are up and down, times that are more difficult. And you're going to have to tell yourself, you know what? I'm only a 4 on my energy. But then you look back at your baseline, you're like, hold on a second, but I was a 2. Progress. Progress it's very, very important. Okay. So let me share this with you real quick. Okay. There you go. Okay. Take this, use it, please. Okay. Now I want to discuss with you vision. Okay. What I want you to do is close your eyes for a moment. Okay. Real quick. Close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to think. Part of that of your life. Okay. Today, you just go through a transition, some hypnosis, whatever it is, parts out of your life. 1 year from today, okay, we're fast forwarding a year from now. What does your year look like? It was an amazing year, okay? You achieved some goals and dreams that you can only imagine right now. okay? Whether it's the dream vacation, the dream relationship, the dream job, dream financial situation. Think about that for a moment. This is really important, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. If any of you are willing to share a little bit about it, that's great. But in any case, why is it so important to have a vision, to have a dream? Because you need to know where you're going. Now you might say, oh, but my vision is just so far outstretched, right? It doesn't matter. And I'm going to explain why. And this is going to help you create a link between your brain and your body. Like I said, you have to create a link between your emotions and your intellect. Your eyes, I'm not sure of the exact number, but just bear with me. I'll give you, an example so you understand. Your eyes can take in, let's say, 100,000 pieces of information a minute. I'm making up the number, but let's just say the brain can only interpret 60,000 pieces of information a minute. So the eyes are taking in a lot more than the brain can absorb. So what does the brain do? How does it know what to take in? It has a filter, okay? Now, what happens is you might be seeing something, but if it doesn't pass through the filter, you won't actually see it, okay? As an example, let's say you wanted to buy a red suit. You went into the store, you bought a red suit. You're like, wow, that's amazing. I never seen anything like that, right? You go and you buy it. And then all of a sudden, you start seeing red suits everywhere. Were they there before? Yeah, more than likely, yeah. Did you see it? No. Did your eyes see it? Yes. Did you see it? No. Because it wasn't relevant to you. You didn't notice it. It didn't hit your brain. So how many opportunities are passing you by because you didn't even recognize them? And that's what happens when your brain doesn't know that it's important to you. It's called a scotoma. It's called a blind spot. You just don't even know that it's relevant to you, so therefore you don't see it. When you have a vision, and it would be to your benefit if you would to take a minute, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever it is, in the morning, in the evening, the more the better. This is for you. Think for a moment about your vision and think deeply. Feel you getting that. Feel yourself with that relationship. Feel yourself on that scuba diving vacation. Feel yourself that you got rid of debt and you paid off your mortgage. Feel that feeling emotionally. Feel it. Okay? What happens is that creates a connection, because I said emotions is kind of like the body's muscle and the intellect is the brain's muscle. But when you're creating this vision and you're feeling it, you're connecting it to the brain, and it's telling the brain, that's important to me. And then all of a sudden, you're in a crowded room and you hear something over the crowd. Somebody's talking about an investment. And all of a sudden, like, what? And, it's not a job, to go to him. You want to go to him. You want to hear what he's talking about. Or, if you love scuba diving and all of a sudden you hear somebody saying something about the Great Barrier Reef or whatever it is, anything that you're ready, or you hear someone talking about a red suit. The point is that you're going to train your brain what you want. And then that way you'll be able to see these opportunities, because I guarantee you opportunities are coming by you for a better job, for a better this, for a better, whatever it is you're interested in, the opportunities are coming there. The question is whether or not you see them. So you got to train your brain on how to see them. Okay. Super, super important. And this also helps you create a vision. Okay. Usually when I work with people on creating visions, they'll create one vision and then 2 weeks later, they'll be like, you know what? That really wasn't my vision. I thought I wanted all the millions and stuff, but really I want a little cabin in Nepal to be a hermit. I'm just saying, they think they want, but until they actually get into what they want, it can be very different. Okay, create the vision. Okay, also, just because you made a vision and you thought about it for 2 days doesn't mean it's it's kind of like Amazon or a delivery service. You place an order, it still takes 5 business days to get to you, or whatever it might be. These things take time. Stay at it. Make sure your brain knows what you want. Okay, really, really important. Okay, now neuroplasticity. Well, Okay, this is already starting to get into some of the tools that we want. Okay, but what I wanna mention about the direction, about the vision, is if you don't have a proper vision, then you don't go anywhere. You're just running around in circles. This is really, really important. It will let you, go and be. And when I talk with my clients and I help them create a vision, as outlandish as they may be, they have someplace to start going. Okay? And you can win a marathon, but only one step at a time. Well, what's that saying? The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. But if you don't know where you're going, you're not going to go in that direction. Okay? Like for instance, if I were to ask you, how do I get to London? You might say, oh, get on this highway, go for 100 miles, make a left, or, you might say, oh, you got to take a submarine. But the biggest, those are all the wrong answers. The question is, where are you starting from? You got to know where you're starting from, and you got to know where you're going. Okay, create your baseline, use the mood meter, and create a vision. And then these things happen automatic. They're subconscious. You hear information, you see things that you otherwise wouldn't have, and it'll propel your life forward. Okay, so please help yourself and do these things. Okay, now just remember, we overestimate what we can do in 12 months, but we vastly underestimate what we can do in 3 to 5 years. Okay, so your visions, your inner work, the things that you want to do, you might say, I can never accomplish this. Maybe you can't accomplish it in 6 to 12 months, but in 3 to 5 years, you could be a vastly different person. Massive. Now, I want to talk to you about some of the scientific tools behind mental and emotional change. Okay? Now, if you don't do things if you don't understand how things work, then this is just some nice information that you forget a day later. But if you integrate these things into your brain, then you can use it. Okay? Okay. Neuroplasticity. The brain, up until recently, was thought to be a fixed thing. Okay? Once it matures, it's fixed. The reality is it's not. It's elastic, meaning it changes, constantly changing. It's constantly wiring and rewiring and deleting. What happens is every time you do something, it creates a connection between the synapses. And if you do the same thing again, it creates another connection and another connection. It starts braiding itself into a rope, thick rope. And that, once it's a thick rope, it's called a habit. And it's something that it's, like I said, it's the known. The brain knows that, so it goes towards it. Okay? People that habitually do exercise, they go to exercise when they're feeling stressed, when they're feeling anxious, when they're feeling not in a good mood. That they go to it. It's a habit, and it's a great habit to have, I'm sure. Now, try to imagine a habit is like if you go to a dirt yard, your backyard, a park, and start walking around in circles. Okay, 1 time, 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. As you're just going in circles and circles and circles, it starts to create a trench, a rut, right? And the more you do it, the deeper the trench is going to be. The trench is the habit. So sometimes you can go into the trench and you're doing your habit, but sometimes you can fall in accidentally just because you're near it. That's what happens with a habit. You get a trigger from outside. Maybe you always liked to smoke at parties, but now all of a sudden you have anxiety, you're anxious, your boss pissed you off, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you're falling into that rut and you're smoking anyway, even though it didn't really apply to begin with, but now you're falling in. If you stop smoking, the threads also, they start pruning. Okay, the brain also prunes what it doesn't use. That's the good news. You might have a big habit, connected in your brain, but that's fine because the more you stop doing it, it'll start snipping it away until it's gone. It's as if you have that rut and then dirt fills it in. And then even if you have that anxiety, you're not falling into a habit. There's no more rut. It's flat ground. You just don't fall into it. Over time, you will desire pot less and less. And over time, those triggers won't trigger you anymore into doing that. Okay? So this is just understand how the brain works and have understanding and hope that the longer you stick with it, the longer, the easier it's just going to be. you know? Now, okay, I wrote down over here, remember the mood meter, okay? Really important. Understand willpower, okay? Everybody, I'm sure you've heard lots of times, willpower, so super important, right? Just power through. Willpower is a muscle. You need to have the muscle for when you need it, okay? For instance, if you've gone to the gym and you're doing your bench pressing and your barbell curls, right? Until failure, until you got like nothing left, until you can't even pick up a pencil, right? That's the best way to work out. Your muscles are spent. Now, a day later, you're going to have them again. That's great. But for that moment, you got nothing. And then you walk out the gym and you see a little old lady coming out of a store and she's got two big shopping bags. She's like, "Excuse me, Sonny, can you help me?" You want to help her, but you can't lift up the bags. That's your willpower muscle. You need to have it for when you need it. Okay? And to give you an example of how this actually shows up in life, there was an experiment done where some scientists took some people, put them in a room with a plate full of delicious cookies, and said, "Enjoy the cookies, we'll be back in a few minutes." 5 minutes later, they brought them some puzzles and asked them to solve the puzzles. And then they left the room. The object of this thing was not to see how long it would take them to solve the puzzle. The puzzles were unsolvable. The object of this experiment was to see how long until they give up. Now, after they were done, they brought in another group, same plate of cookies, and they said, "Don't touch the cookies. Just sit here until we come back." 5 minutes later, they come, they give them the puzzles. The second group, it took the first group with the cookies took them on average 9 minutes until they quit. The second group took them 4 minutes until they quit. They used up their willpower before the puzzles came in. So it's important to recognize just this little thing that it's a muscle, and it gets stronger. The longer you use it in the right way, it gets stronger. As you're developing your habits, you start going through. It gets easier. You feel stronger, and you can tackle harder habits as you get through, as you progress. So what this means in your life is, first of all, start small with your interactions, meaning in the beginning, stay away from people that you know you're going to be tempted. Okay, you need to build up your inner resistance, your inner ability. Stay away. Also, it would be, if you know this party's coming up, just try to minimize the interaction. Okay, if you know things are going to come up that you can't stay away from, then try to minimize other interactions during the day that's going to, let's say, stress you out and make you, stop you from doing things. Okay. A guy I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, he was telling me he was in a meeting and he's trying to work on weight, right? He's in a meeting and there were some pastries or whatever it is, cookies, and he was staring at them for an hour long during the meeting. And he was so proud. He didn't take one. And then on his way out, he grabbed three. Okay. He burnt out his muscle and then he collapsed at the end. So it's important. It's important to be aware of when your biggest times of day are going to be, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the evening after a long day of work, whether it's after the conversation with the kids, whatever it might be. Make sure you have a full tank of willpower, full strength. That way you can use it then. Okay. All right. Now, I tried to plow through with you a lot. I know I went fast, and I apologize for that. I'd rather not have to speak so fast, but there's so much to go through, and there's only a limited amount of time. So I try to pack in as much as I can. Okay, and I really hope that you gained some solid steps from this. Okay, I talked to you about the why you should quit, the negative effects that it's having on you, like the dopamine, right? And the brain fog, the anxiety, the sleep, which is, without sleep you got nothing. You gotta have sleep. You can't continue with life. Like I was talking with a client of mine a couple weeks ago, and he was sharing me his vision. He wants to lose weight. He wants to run a marathon. He wants to do this and do that. It's just like all these different things across the board. He wants to be a different person, right? And then I asked him, how's his sleep? And he's like, not that great. I said, that's number one. You got to target your sleep. Without your sleep, you have no energy, no ability to move forward. Sleep is super critical. So understand the reasons that you're smoking. Okay, understand the reasons why you shouldn't smoke. Okay, you need your joy, you need your sleep, you need your abilities. Okay, very super important. Now, I also talked to you about vision and the where. Okay, how you should really create this mind-body connection. Okay, vision also super important. You have to know where you're starting from. There will be a time in the future weeks or months that you're going to be like, I can't, why should I do this? Why should I bother? But even a homeopathic doctor, homeopathy type of medicine, a natural type of medicine, they take a full case study of like every detail of your life before they even start dealing with your medical patterns. Why? Because you don't realize when things are getting better when things are good. And you have to be able to, you have to have this. That way you can look back and see, because on my path to progression, on my path through this, I started at like a 2 energy. And then a while later, I was a 4. I'm like, eh. But then a couple of weeks later, I was a 6. I'm like, hey, that's not bad. I'm a 6 now, right? 6 is not very great, by the way. It's still pretty low. I mean, now if I'm not on an 8, I'm like, what's wrong? What happened? I'm not trying to, pat myself on the back. This is available for everything, for everybody. I want to be 9s, 10s, 12s, 15s, for sure. Absolutely. Pot is leaving us low. And then we turn to pot in order to get us high. We don't need that. We don't want that. Okay. Now, and I also talked to you about neuroplasticity. Okay. Just stick with it. Understand how your brain works. Willpower. And I also want to just mention one little thing about withdrawal. Okay. Physical withdrawal only lasts like maximum 3-4 days. Okay. And withdrawal is your body saying, I like what we had yesterday. So it makes you anxious. It makes you you feel bad. You feel like you would. It's just saying, I know how we can get back to yesterday. But if you want to stay in yesterday, go right ahead. If you do what you did yesterday, you'll get what you got tomorrow. Okay. Somebody says if you do what you've done, you'll get what you've got. If you want to stay with yesterday, no problem. Keep doing what you got, and you get tomorrow. But if you want to have different future, you have to change what you're doing. Okay. So the withdrawal is basically saying stay with yesterday, but it only lasts 2, 3, 4 days. Okay. And it's not massive symptoms, but there might be some discomfort, but welcome it. Okay. Welcome it, saying this is pot putting up its last fight. Okay. It's called the little monster. It's going to start egging at you. Okay. After that, then there's going to be the big monster. The big monster is your brain conditioning that you've been conditioned for the past 10, 20, 30 years to say pot is good. I like pot. My friends are smoking pot. Look at that, Charlie Brown is smoking pot, whatever it is. But that's just brainwashing that's been built up over the years. Okay. That has nothing to do with our physical desire or need. Just remember where you came from and where you're going. Fantastic. This is a lot of information that I plowed through really quickly. I didn't even give you time to absorb it. I'm just keeping on going because I'm really trying to give you as much of a leg up. Okay. It's like dumping 500 pounds of weights in a weight machine and not really telling you how you should do it, but just like, there's an instructional booklet. So anyway, I gave you everything that I possibly could imagine to squeeze into this amount of time. Okay. I want you to be inspired. I want you to take action. If at the end of the day, all you're doing is sitting and saying, okay, you know what, that's great. That was some cool information, but you're not doing anything, then you're not going anywhere. What I would like from you is to really move on to the next level. Okay. And I have a little gift to help you move forward. Okay. Now, this is not for everyone. Okay. Some of you are inspired. I hope you are. Some of you want to go deeper. And some are like, not so enthusiastic. And that's perfectly okay. You just have to recognize where you are. Be truthful to yourself. This is for people that want to go forward. Okay. Now, there are some of you that might say, I just want to, moderate. I don't want to quit it. I like it too much. It doesn't affect me that badly. Whatever it might be, You don't want to quit forever. That's fine. This is not for you. This is for those that are done with this portion of their life. They want to change who they are. They have a vision in their head for somebody that's bigger, better, and better than the person they currently are. They want forward. Fantastic. This is for them. And also, and this is, you got to be honest with yourself here. Sometimes it's just not the right time. Sometimes it's just not the right time to work on something like this. This is going to take effort, take commitment. It's all you. No one's here holding your hand and wiping your nose. If it's not a priority for you right now, recognize that. If you can't take the commitment onto yourself, recognize that. Okay? Be honest where we stand. Now, as I said, I have an amazing gift for you. Okay? For those that are up for it, for those that are energized and actually want to move forward, I'm offering a free 60-minute personalized roadmap plan. Okay? Now, I'm not selling anything in the 60-minute call. It's not a sales call. Okay? It's a personal roadmap taking you from where you are to where you want to go. Okay? That's it. That's all there really is to say about that. Okay? I've had years of research and experience, personal experience, to make this process easier and permanent. I want that at the end of the 60 minutes, you're going to know exactly what you need to for, I'm going to try to create a roadmap with you for a 90-day process. A 90-day process that you're going to leave the call with clarity and crystal clear direction. And probably some excitement on how you're going to get from where you are in the next 90 days. Okay? You can know exactly what you need to do next. And even if you've tried and failed before, so have I. It's okay. I can help you. I'm sure I can. And if I can't, I will be happy to offer you whatever resources I can in order that they can help you. Okay? If I see that, there are some resources that I personally don't know of, but, that I know of, but I don't, like Facebook groups or, therapy or coaching or whatever it might be, if I know of resources that can help you better than me, I will absolutely send them your way. Now, in these 60 minutes together, we're also going to build a vision of what life is going to look like once you quit smoking pot. And we're going to create a roadmap for the next 90 days. Okay? Fantastic. If at the end of these 60 minutes, I'm going to see lots of different ways to really accelerate your move forward, I will share them with you. And yeah, I'm excited to do this. The only problem is, and there is a problem, unfortunately, 60 minutes is a large chunk of time, and I can't give it to everybody. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I want to invite you to a 20-minute call. Okay? Jump on a call with me. 20 minutes, and we can have just a friendly conversation, okay? We'll see if it's right for you, okay? We'll see if we mesh well together. Not every teacher is right for the student, okay? It has to mesh, and I want to be here for you. I want to give you what you need, truly and absolutely. So I'm going to share with you a link, okay? It's to a calendar to schedule a 20-minute appointment with me. Schedule the appointment. We'll get on that phone call. Within 15, 20 minutes, we'll already see, based on personal conversation, one-on-one, whether we're right for each other, okay? If it works, fantastic. And then we schedule a 60-minute. How does this sound to you guys? Okay, excellent. Alex, fantastic. Okay. All right. Okay. So here, everybody, here's the link. Okay. Go in there, schedule. If there are times in there that are no good for you, if there are times that you need that are no good for you, please send me a message through WhatsApp or email, and I'll see what I can do in order to create different conditions. Maybe I'll open up new dates or whatever it is. There's limited amount of bookings, scheduled slots. But I hope to be able to, whoever wants to jump on a 20-minute call, I try to at least help them with that and then move from there. Okay. Everybody, guys, are there any questions? Is there any questions that somebody might have? I'm going to pause the recording so you can